until 13. Okay, all right. Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for the coordinators of ICA ICTA for giving me this opportunity to present my paper. So I think, yeah, for my paper presentation, this is going to be a UI UX topic instead of an AI or machine learning based topic. So it's going to be a bit different from the past three topics that we got. But I hope it's still insightful for all of you. And I'll try to also keep it light since it's also the last one, right? So my topic title is Designing an Engaging News Aggregator Application with Social Features and Gamification. And it's done by me and also my professor, Ms. Ginar. So here are the table of contents. We're going to start with the background of my study. So okay, I want to start by showing to all of you this graph, this table. It shows that basically two key insights. Number one, it shows that news consumption is shifting more towards smartphones, as you can see in the left chart. And secondly, it's showing that out of all of the people who are using the smartphones, they're mostly getting the news from social media. And yeah, so then the next question is, so what happens when the trend of reading news shifts from like conventional news sources such as news and maybe television shows and TV anchors? What happens when it shifts towards social media? Well, research has been done by Bukowski in 2017 that shows that what happens now is there is a new mode of news consumption that is called incidental news. He's done a study aimed towards younger generations, people on the age of 18 to 35. Basically, the key aspects of incidental news are three things, right? First is that news content is now indistinguishable from social media content. That means you get the news content alongside with content, social media content, which is like updates from your friends and everything. It becomes a bit harder to distinguish. Secondly, there exists now a need to be engaged constantly, but people click on the news sporadically. What does it mean? It means like people prefer to have the news given out to them constantly, but whether or not they click on it is now more sporadic. It's more spontaneous and random. And thirdly is there's a more shift to a passive news discovery instead of an active news discovery. What does passive news discovery mean? It means like there's no longer like people who have routines of viewing the news perhaps like every morning in the newspaper, but usually people view the news passively. For example, if you get like an update from your friends on social media, for example, if like you see your friends talking about something, then you read the news. But most of the times these days, people don't have an active news routine. So next study I found was a study by the Reuters Institute in the UK. And for young people ages 18 to 35, there are two primary roles of news. First is for their own progress and self-development, and secondly is for enjoyment. And this is a different shift whereas previously news was more of like an outlet for people to know more about the world. Now it's just not anymore about knowing about the world, but it's also about creating a sense of identity for yourself and also for a sense of enjoyment. So looking at those two contexts, I feel there are two needs, right, to address news reading behavior that's not being addressed currently by existing platforms and apps, which is the need for exposure and engagement. And secondly is the need for more enjoyment. And that's where we found that gamification and the implementation of social media features can be something that can address both of these needs that are currently not addressed in existing applications. So here's a theory and methodology that I used. Firstly, on gamification. So what does it mean to gamify something? We used an existing theory by Yu Kai Cho. Sorry, I did not put the reference here. So basically, he made a framework to define what is a gamified solution. A gamified solution contains two things. Firstly, it contains a motivating factor, which is this thing on the left. So there are 8 different motivating factors, starting from ownership, accomplishment, epic meaning, and I don't want to go into detail for the sake of time. And 2, it has to have a journey, or a player journey, which is the chart on the right. Has to start from a discovery phase, onboarding, scaffolding, and there has to be an end game. So if you have 2 of these things, it's called your solution is a gamified solution. And yeah, talking about motivation factors, those motivation factors can translate into game elements, which are all of the different elements that you see on the page here. And yeah, we're not going to go through all of them for the sake of time. And secondly, in this paper, I developed, well, not really developed, but I found a gamification design method that incorporates a lot of existing design methodologies such as user-centered design and human-centered design. This was based on previous research that aims to synthesize a lot of different approaches to designing user-focused applications, but geared more towards making it gamified. And yeah, this is a simplified version of it that I use for the sake of this. Starts from a preparation phase, analysis, ideation, and finally a design phase, which similar to user-centered design incorporates sort of a iteration method, an iterative method of building a prototype, testing, iterating, testing, iterating, testing. And yeah, we're going to see how I managed to implement this. So firstly, on the analysis phase, a survey was done amongst Indonesian respondents, ages 18 to 35. Around 200 respondents responded with an error margin of around 3 or 5%, if not mistaken. And firstly, it found out, first thing is the need for consuming news. Very sorry that a lot of these are still in Indonesia. I haven't translated it. But we found that the main need for consuming news are basically two things. If you see, the blue one means they agreed that this is a need. The red one means it's neutral. Yellow one means they don't agree that this is a need. And we see the ones with the highest blue bar is firstly, in order to get skills or knowledge to improve themselves. Second is to gain topics, just talk to other people. So for the sake of connection. And thirdly is for the sake of just self-enjoyment. Yeah, so these are the three key needs for consuming news. And moving on. Wait, yeah. Okay. Types of news reading behavior is also, there are four main types, and I found the majority, there are passive news absorbers, meaning that they don't have a specific brand and they consume news in a low frequency. And nextly is on the main source of motivation. Yeah, the main source of motivation that I got from the survey is two, social influence and also progress. And from those analysis, we derive two main user personas. Firstly are the Karens, secondly are the Alexes. User persona is a tool in which designers use to have a better visualization of who the users are. And I use the same kind of tools for this research. So the Karens, their needs are for learning and connectedness. Basically, these are typical millennials who spend most of their times in social media. They just follow the latest trends and read whatever their friends are reading. Secondly are the Alexes that are one of these more ambitious people who have certain topics that they're interested in, and they're willing to read a lot of news just for that specific topic. And yeah, now we're going to go to solution designs, and I'm going to walk you through about how I managed to make each of these features, where I got the inspiration from and which game ML elements was chosen. First feature, F1, is the recommended feature. Found that this is a very common feature that is present in a lot of social media features. Recommendation is something that I think is very heavily used. I'm sure all of you as AI and ML people, you know just how powerful recommendations can be. And yeah, this main source of inspiration is TikTok. Game elements uses visual storytelling, and main user goals is making it easy to learn. And this is how it translated into a news app that was designed. So as you can see, yeah, you can swipe up and down to get different types of news and left and right to view more details. Second feature is to create a progress bar, because as I found out, knowing your progress is a big source of motivation for someone. And yeah, this is how I managed to implement it, by having a progress bar. F3 is a comment section. This is to appease all the carrots who need news for social needs. Biggest inspiration is YouTube. And yeah, just a quick demo about how I structured the player journey. So yeah, essentially, you start out a simple user onboarding process. And yeah, this is part of the onboarding journey, where you get to explore, firstly, the different interactions of the page. So this is on Figma, so there's a mouse, but just imagine that this is your hand swiping up and down. Here you can see different kinds of news of different topics. And this is the experience of.
You have 2 minutes left.
2 minutes, okay, that's enough. Yeah, and this is the experience of like swiping the news and viewing your progress. And yeah, we have also a discovery page, social page. This is also one of the things that is pretty differentiating this app from common news apps, where you can actually see what other people are reading. And also your own profile page, where yeah, there's again this sense of progress that you've been made, that you can create the more news that you read. And so yeah, next question is, of course, how do you test gamified solution? So we have 4 key metrics. I'm not going to go that detailed. Firstly is a completion rate. Secondly is a system usability score. So how usable is the system? Thirdly is just how efficient is the system? Lastly is also how engaging it is. And there's a 12 questionnaire items to measure engagement. So here are the results. In terms of completion rate, since I took a lot of inspiration from social media, they're quite easy. So it's very effective. So it's proven to be effective. In terms of efficiency, it's also proven to be efficiency when you compare new users to expert users. Only 3-second delay, meaning that for a new user, you don't need that much time to learn about it, except for the first interaction, which is the interaction of you scrolling the news feeds. It found quite a significant difference of 14 seconds, usually because it's not very, people aren't used to this type of way of finding news. And yeah, this is the last bit of research, which is the engagement scale. So I did sort of like a short A/B testing. Firstly, using a progress bar. Second is using badges. We see a higher total engagement when the moment that you use badges. And yeah, almost for everything, the aesthetic appeal and the reward factor was the primary highest scoring. But in terms of the ability to create focused attention and perceive usability, it can still be improved. So yeah, here are my conclusions. Firstly, my conclusion is number 1, the method that I proposed can be an effective method to create a gamified solution. And secondly, it's shown that progress bars show higher engagement scores compared to badges. Although lower focus attention scores, I think it's because like badges is a lot more like colorful, therefore more distracting, but it's overall better for engagement. Yeah, and that's all from my side. Thank you. Opening the floor for questions.
Okay. We have question in the chat from Memora Sensei. Establishing user persona is impressive. Is there any specific name for this kind of design method?
A specific name, talking about user personas.
Yes.
User persona essentially is a tool to help facilitate design process. And a method that incorporates persona, if not mistaken, is a user-centered design method. Almost in every user-centered design method manual, there exists the need to create personas. Yeah, but yeah, it's more of a tool that you can or can, it's optional for you to use or not. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Because there is some other presenter the talk don't have this kind of the design, so that's why I'm asking.
So actually, we use a user persona when we use user-centered design.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Because of the time, thank you for your impressive presentation, Mr. Gardahadi, and thank you also for Memora Sensei for the question.